Okay, so we are now looking at the aggregate planning. So in aggregate planning form, we are looking at a number of things here in aggregate planning. So this is good for organizations that are involved in maintaining either workforce or would want to actually fire and hire workers. Okay, so in aggregate planning, you look at the following: the number of workers required in production hours required, the number of workers hired, the number of workers laid off. Of course, we also look at the production units required, the overtime units, subcontraction units, or the stock out units, where we are looking at the number of items here. So stock out units, these are also called back order units for stock out. Now, in aggregate planning, there are two major strategies that you need to understand. Only two of them. So once you understand these two, then it will be very okay. All right, so we get into the first strategy where we are talking about the chase strategy or matching demand. So chase strategy or matching demand. Okay. Is everyone there? All right then. So chase strategy or matching demand. We are talking about chase strategy where the firm, this is where the firm vary the size of workforce in order to have the production rate that matches demand. So the chase strategy, you are chasing workers. You can hire or fire workers in the strategy called the chase strategy. So under this strategy, you don't want to maintain the size of workforce. So you only want to hire or fire workers as we look at the chase strategy of matching demand. You only produce to match the demand. So if the demand is 50 units that you need, the customers need, you only produce 50 units. You don't overproduce. That is on the chase strategy. So you only vary the size of workforce in order to have the production rate that matches demand. So the firm vary the size of workforce simply by hiring and laying off workers. So there is aspect of hiring and laying off workers. So as a result, the firm incurs hiring and laying off costs. So the firm incurs hiring and laying off costs. So for this strategy, the firm produces the exact units required to meet demand. And for this reason, there is no inventory carrying cost. You don't overproduce. You only produce as to meet demand. Unless the firm has a safety stock that they are saying they have a buffer stock that they should keep to cushion demand. So there is no inventory carrying cost because you produce as per exact demand for the chase strategy. So these are the major components that you need to know as we look at the chase strategy. The first strategy in aggregate planning. Of course, chase strategy is used when the firm does not want to maintain the size of workforce. So you don't want to maintain the size of workforce, so you use a chase strategy. An example, it is winter. You cannot hire as many workers as possible to produce your soft drinks. So you can lay some of them, can lay off some of the workers during the winter period. But if we talk about summer period, October, August, and other months coming before December, of course, you would need to hire as many workers as possible so that you're going to produce more units of a commodity to meet your demand. Because people are thirsty, they need some soft drinks, so you can hire as many workers as possible. All right, so now, the following costs are involved in the chase strategy. We have hiring costs. There are only three costs: hiring cost, you have the layoff cost, and the straight time cost. So these are the three major costs of the chase strategy. So you have hiring cost, then you have the layoff cost, and then you have the straight time cost. Okay. Now, the straight time cost is equal to production hours multiplied by cost per hour. This is the formula for the straight time cost. It's equal to production hours multiplied by the cost per hour, as we look at the straight time cost. Now, this straight time cost is also called regular production cost. Okay, so straight time cost is also called the regular production cost. Okay, so we have the first one is the straight time or a regular production cost, which is production hours multiplied by cost per hour. Another formula to use here, as we are looking at the first, we are still looking at the first aspect of a strategy, which is the chase strategy, where we are saying we are firing or laying off workers in the chase strategy. So straight time cost, production hours multiplied by cost per hour. Of course, there are only three costs: the hiring cost, layoff cost for this strategy, and then again, straight time cost got production units apart from the first one. So production units multiplied by cost per unit. For this strategy, we know that the firm does not want to subcontract. Okay, you only produce as per demand. So you can do your best, you do your possible means to hire as many workers as you can that you can produce to meet your demand. You don't want to subcontract. You don't have to tell your customers that we can't give you what you need. No, it's a reality. This topic is very cardinal because this is what we do in day-to-day life in an organization. You don't want to subcontract. So hire as many employees as possible who can work to meet the demand of students. An example, hire as many tutors as possible that you can meet your demand. Okay, so you don't have to subcontract. So a firm here does not incur subcontracting costs. Here they don't incur the overtime because you would have hired as many workers as possible. So you're avoiding the overtime aspect. Then also you're avoiding the aspect of telling people that we don't have stock. So you're avoiding the stock out costs, the cost of losing business. This is just the cost, okay, of losing business. So cost of losing business. So you're avoiding the stock out aspect here. So the cost of stock out cost is just the cost of losing business. So we are trying by all means to avoid the stock out cost, okay? Because when you don't have stock, customers next time they will not come because they will know that you every time they need some talk time from you, they need talk time from you, they need the service from you, you are not there. So you're avoiding the stock out cost, the cost of losing business. So according to demand, you make sure that you produce according to the demand. If people are demanding for a service, you should be there as a lecturer or as a tutor so that you don't lose out on money. So you're avoiding the stock out cost. So you don't incur the subcontracting cost because you would have actually, we could have hired as many, because I'm emphasizing on these points because when the chess strategy, these aspects, these ones are not there. Okay, so the overtime is not there because we would have had as many workers as possible so that they don't work overtime. They should knock over 16 hours from 8 hours. We don't have to subcontract because we would have had as many workers as possible to meet so that we produce to meet the demand. All right, so carrying costs. So the firm does not incur carrying costs unless the firm has the safety stock. That's when they can have the carrying cost, unless only they have the safety stock, the buffer stock. The reason why the firm does not incur the above cost is that they would have either hired or laid off workers and incurred either the hiring or layoff cost for the chase strategy. So under the chase strategy, we only look at the hiring cost, the layoff cost, and the regular time cost. That's all. These are the only costs that you need to, especially when, in fact, they'll even state to say, calculate the cost of the chase strategy or matching demand. So you only have to look at the hiring cost and the layoff cost. Chase strategy is the same as matching demand. So we can now build up a little bit. We get to the other strategy, the last strategy, the only two strategies like I mentioned here in aggregate planning. So the other one is pure level strategy. So it's simply saying this is a strategy where the firm maintains the steady workforce level. You are maintaining workforce. Now, if those workers, maybe you have 10 workers at a farm, if you don't want to hire or lay any of them, meaning that's a steady workforce. Now, what happens if they cannot produce to meet demand? It's up to you to determine as a firm. All right. So meaning that you can tell them you are supposed to knock off at 16 hours, but you are not going home. We are going to pay you overtime. That's option one. So that they produce to meet demand. So we'll pay you overtime for knocking off late because we have maintained you guys. That is when they don't want to hire or fire. So this one aspect of hiring and firing for this strategy, for pure level strategy, is not there because you are maintaining the size of workforce. So they do not want to hire or fire for this one. There is no hiring or layoff costs involved here. The firm cannot produce to meet demand. So if the firm, there's a condition here, if the firm cannot produce to meet demand, they can incur, they can either incur the following costs, but not all of them at a time. So if they cannot produce to meet demand, you tell them option one will pay you overtime. So either of them, not all of them at once, because you tell them, okay, you are going to work overtime. Don't knock off, pay overtime. That's option one. If the company policy does not allow overtime, then you will say, go home, knock off at 16 hours. We're going to subcontract. Okay, an example, you give a lecturer an assignment or a tutor an assignment to give somebody to do. Then if he can't manage, he can subcontract. If he cannot do it, he can subcontract and give somebody else to work on it. And in fact, he's going to incur the subcontracting cost because you will pay that person who is going to work for that assignment or anything else. All right. So that is one aspect of, so you can either be overtime or you can subcontract. That's option two. Or it is just good that you tell customers that you don't have stock. We are going to incur the cost of losing business. You say, I can't manage. So that's a stock out cost. We cannot just manage to give you these units. So there are three options that are involved here when you have maintained the workforce. If they can't produce to meet demand, tell them to work overtime, option one, or subcontract as a firm, or just declare to customers that you don't have stock. Now, if the company has constant workers who cannot produce to meet demand, then they can incur either of the above costs, either, not all of them at once, because you would have already worked overtime, so there's no need to subcontract to those units, or you subcontract, no overtime, or you just declare that you don't have stock for stock out. Now, they cannot incur all the costs listed above at the same time because, okay, so you cannot incur the costs, all of them at the same time, because I think I've explained already the reason why. All right, then now, when finding the pure level strategy, the formula is given by summation of demand. So this is just the sum. So this is the sum of demand. So sum of demand. So sum of demand here. So sum of demand minus the beginning stock, then over the number of periods. Okay, so it's a sum of demand minus the beginning stock over the number of periods. This is how you find the pure level strategy. Here we cannot produce what is already there. That's why we're subtracting the beginning stock. So we want to find the average production. So this is on it, finding average production. Finding average. Okay, so this is finding average production. Okay, so this is how to find the average production. The formula is given by this one. So summation of demand minus beginning stock over number of periods. So for pure level strategy, the firm should choose the cheapest mode among the three provisions, either the overtime, that is especially when they cannot produce to meet demand. So is it overtime, which is convenient? Is it subcontracting, which is convenient? Or is it stock out cost, which is convenient for them? So they will choose. They cannot incur all the costs at the same time. That is overtime, subcontracting, or stock out, because they need to choose which is cheaper among the above costs. All right, then let us get into an example so that we understand these two strategies, the pure level strategy and the matching demand. So pure level strategy and the matching demand. So we get into the example here. This one is coming from the pamphlet. So now here saying Sunshare Limited produces a variety of furniture products. The operations manager wants to prepare an aggregate plan for the next 5 months. Demand is given below. So demand for the months from month 1 to 5, we have these ones. Demand 150, 170, 180, 160, and 160. That is the demand that we have here. The cost of production per unit using regular time is 50. So this is the regular production cost is 50. Using overtime per unit is 75. Subcontracting is 80. So, and then already we can see overtime is 75. Subcontracting is 80. Already we can see overtime is a little bit cheaper than subcontracting. So it's better if you're going to maintain them, it's better you choose which one is cheap among the three, because the three for the level is overtime, is subcontracting, and the back order cost is 60 quarter per unit. So here we have 60 for the back order cost, and then getting down to overtime is the $75 per unit, and then subcontracting is $80. So among these three, the cheapest is back order, which is stock out. So this one should apply as we look at the pure level strategy. These three. So we choose which one is cheap among the three as we get into the pure level strategy. Now, holding cost is $150, and then firing cost is $200 per worker. There are currently 12 workers, and each can produce 15 units per period. So those workers, each of them will produce 15 units per period. All right. So we can find how many units can be produced when the number of workers increase. Workers can be hired or fired, but at most only 12 workers can be on the roll. All right. Overtime capacity is 30 units per period, and subcontracting is 10 units per period. Beginning inventory is 0. No back order is allowed at the end of the 5th month or 5th period. When computing the number of workers needed, make sure you round the number up to the whole number, meaning even if it's 12.04, supposed to be 13. So round up. So you need to round up. There's this 10 here. Round up to the whole number. All right, then. Develop an aggregate plan using a chase strategy and determine the cost. Develop an aggregate plan using a level strategy and determine the cost. Which plan should be used? All right, so this explains the two strategies that are involved. This question coming from pamphlet, like I mentioned. So, excuse me. So we need to get to the solution. All right. So the chess strategy, that's the first aspect here that they're looking at. So we need to go back to the question. We have how many months? 1 to 5 months. The demand are these units. And then the aspect we need to look at is these, in each of these months, customers are demanding month 1, 150 units, month 2, 170 units, month 3, 180 units, month 4, 160, month 5, 160 units. These are the units that customers are demanding. So it is very possible that we can come up with a chess strategy from the information that has been given, especially that we have the holding cost is 5 per dollar, that's just per unit, that is. And then the beginning inventory is what's supposed to be accounted for. So we need to check what the beginning inventory is here. They're saying beginning inventory is 0 units. So this is beginning inventory 0 units. So as we come to the chess strategy, you're going to have the month, you have those 1 to 5. Demand are these units, beginning inventory is 0. Chess means produce as per demand. So here it means produce as per what? Produce as per demand. That is what it means by chess. So you produce as per demand. Now, you have to make mention one thing here that the beginning inventory is 0. So we need, for us to meet this one, so to produce as per demand. So here, that's why we're producing as per demand. Now, number of workers, so here we are producing these units, 150, an example, 150 units. Now, one employee is able to produce 15 units per period. Each can produce 15 units per period. So it's very, 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 very clear here that we can find the number of workers simply by dividing how many units have been produced by how many units can be produced by one worker. So here we're getting 10, 12, 12, 11, and 11. So these are number of workers here. All right. So we're looking at production and how many units can produce, they're going to be produced by one worker. So you're getting the number of workers required in each month. All right, then. So here we have been told that there are currently 12 workers. Okay, so there are currently 12 workers as at now. And each can produce 15 units. So now, currently there were 12 workers, but how come we have found 10? It means that here they laid off 2 workers because they were found 10, the current was 12, so 10 is there. So meaning the number of workers laid off, you're saying there are 2 from the 12 because we had the 12 workers. For now, from here, we know where the 2 is coming from. Now, from here up to this, we have hired how many workers? 2 workers. So from a 10 workers to 12, we have hired 2 workers. Don't look at the 12 current 12 was just a current workforce. So now we are looking at from as per month 1, we laid off 2. Then we have actually here we have had 2 workers. Here we didn't hire or lay off, so they are only it's 0 here. Number of workers hired is 0. Okay, so we are not looking at the current 12. 12 is just for the first month. So 12, and this is 10. So here we laid off 2. Here they had 2 workers. Here they actually didn't hire or lay off. Here they laid off 1. So what number of workers laid off is 1. Then here they didn't hire or lay off. So we have that one there. So it's a number of workers hired. It's only 0 here, 2, and here these are zeros because here they didn't hire or lay off. So you're getting these ones. So you can find the hiring cost. The hiring cost is $150 per worker from here. Hiring cost is $150 per worker. So $150 per worker, that's the hiring cost. So meaning here, the hiring cost is 300 only, so which is the total here is 300. Number of workers laid off. Here for month 1, we laid off 2 because the current was supposed to be 12. So meaning to be 2 by 200, which is 400. Then in month 4, we also laid off 1. So meaning the amount comes to 400 plus 200, which is 600 here for the layoff cost. Now, the other cost, because for the chess strategy, I mentioned that there's supposed to be only 3 costs: the hiring cost, the layoff cost, and the regular time cost. So here we're going to have 75, 85, 9. So here it's about regular time cost is $50. So it's $50. That's the regular time cost, $50 by how many units we have produced. So $50 by 150. So which is giving us so 50 by 150, 50 by 170, 50 by this. So the total comes to 41,000. So meaning the total cost of this strategy will be 300 plus 600 plus 41,000, which is 41,900. So this is the cost of the chess strategy. So from here, we really need to understand how the costs are determined. So, excuse me. So for the chess strategy, there are only 3 major costs that are there. The hiring cost, which is this one. Then we find the layoff cost, which is this one, and the regular cost, which is this one. So these are the 3 costs that are involved in this strategy. So the amount comes to 41,900. Now let us get into the second part of the question, where we are getting to the pure level strategy. So for level production, it's summation of demand minus the beginning stock over a number of periods. So you just aggregate the demand. So the demand here, you add all of them. So you simply say 150 plus 170 plus 180 plus 160 plus 160 minus 0 divided by 5. So we're getting 164 units. After getting these units, that's our production. So what is supposed to be done here is that you can find number of workers required for this. So it is 10.9, which is 11 workers. So you just, the 15 is actually coming from the information that has been given in the question, where we say each worker is able to produce 15 units per period. So we have 15 units per period, each worker. So but now we need to find the level production. So level production here is summation of the demand minus the beginning stock, then divide by the number of periods. So we cannot produce what we already have. That's why we're subtracting this. So our production will be summation of the demand minus what is on hand. So this one is our on hand, which is already there. Then you divide by the number of periods. So here we are aggregating the demand. We are sum of demand. So adding all these. The 0 is because the beginning stock in the question has been given as 0. This is our beginning stock in the question. So after adding and dividing by number of periods, we are talking about 5. So we need 165 units. So we are able to produce per month. This is per month. So these are units that we're supposed to produce per per month. So regardless of demand, so we are able to produce this. The first one is Chelsea, we are producing as per demand. So if the demand is 150, produce exact that amount. But here we are producing regardless of how many units are demanded. So here we're finding 164 units per month. Now it's very possible that we can find the number of workers. Okay, we're saying 164 divided by 15 units per worker. One worker is able to produce 15 units. So here, approximately, we are saying we have 11 workers. This the question is saying, when finding the number of workers, we need to round up the number to the whole number. So here is this information here. So that's why we're finding the 11 workers. Okay. All right then. So we need to come to the table here. We are saying these are months. Our demand units are these. Beginning stock is 0. So here our beginning stock is 0, but our production is on a level. This is it on a level basis. The 164 is the one which we have found. So we are going to say what we have started with plus how much we have produced. These two is a plus. You add here. These two you add. Then you subtract the demand. So here you add these two, it's supposed to be added. So you add these two. Okay, so this one is a plus. So you add these two. So meaning beginning stock plus production minus demand, then you're getting 14. Because this is 164 minus the 150, we're getting 14. This 14 is the ending stock, which will be the beginning stock for the other period. So this is it, how it has come like that. So this 14 comes there. Now, this 14 plus the 164 minus 170, you find how many units, in fact, you are going to remain with, which is 8. So these two is giving about 178 minus demand of 170, you get ending stock of 8. This ending stock is a beginning stock here. So you still do the same. You add this, 8 plus 164 minus 180. You actually going to have a minus of negative 8. This minus simply means you are short to meet the demand. Meaning our labor workforce, they have failed to manage to meet the demand. So it is up to you as management now to know what you are going to do with this 8. Are you going to subcontract, or are you going to tell them to not to knock off, because there are 11 workers? These guys, they are, it's a level also. We have found 11 workers from that computation. So if this 8, they are under pressure, they cannot manufacture 8 units. So you can tell them what to do. You can tell them to work overtime, or you can subcontract these units. So the 8 units you can subcontract, or you can just declare that you don't have stock. You can come here. This is it, our beginning stock, which is it. In fact, we have a back order. So you add these, it is giving us -4. When you add these two and subtract that, it's giving us -4 as ending stock. So this will be our beginning stock here. You add here, you are getting these two is 160, so it's 0. That's why they are saying from here that in the 5th month, there should not be any back order. No back order is allowed at the end of the 5th month. We are coming back to this statement. All right, then we move on. We are now getting to back order. So here, why have we chosen the back order? Because this is a level strategy, like I mentioned. You can choose which one is cheaper among the 3 costs, because these guys are under pressure. So if we are to go for overtime costs $75 per unit. Subcontracting is $80 per unit. And then back order is $60. So back order is cheaper among the 3, the cheapest structure. So we are getting 60. So for any units that are backlogged, the stock out units, you're going to multiply here by, so of course, in this, it is possible also here that we have a carrying cost because we have 14 units. So 14 units, you can go for carrying cost, where you say 14 times 5, which is 70. These are physical units that we have actually have after meeting demand. We are remaining with extra units, 14. Here we are remaining with extra units of 8, which are because it's a positive figure. So multiplying, you're getting 70, you're getting 40. But here, for these other months, we don't have any carrying cost because we don't have anything physical stock that we are holding. So you have these ones. Then our regular cost, it is 164, which is production units. Like I mentioned here to say the regular production cost is equal to production hours multiplied by cost per hour, which is a straight time cost, which is here. Straight time cost, production hours multiplied by cost per hour, or production units multiplied by cost per unit. And then from here, we can see that our regular cost is $50. But we are producing how many units? We are producing on a level basis, we are producing 164 units. So that's why 164 multiplied by 50, so it will be constant. So we're getting the back order cost. We have a back order in week 3, which is -8. That one we are running out of stock. We're getting the cheapest, which is 60 among the three. Among the three, over time, subcontraction and back order. So we're 60 by 8, 40 by 60, we're getting 720 as a back order cost. Then we have the other one, which is the carrying cost, which is the 110. Then the other one is 41,000. Now, since they told us that the current workforce, we are talking about the 12 workers. There were 12 workers on the current basis. But how come we have found 11 workers? We found 11 workers for the level strategy here. We found 11 workers, meaning that they only fired one worker and maintained 11 of them. So what is going to happen here is we are going to have the total cost of a plan will be back order cost, then plus carrying cost, a regular cost. We have that one for the 2030. Since they had 12 workers and they remained with 11 workers, it means that one worker was fired. So this is why we are saying this cost is the layer of cost, because one worker was actually fired. So one worker was fired, okay, was actually fired. So this is the way it's supposed to be presented in terms of calculations for the both strategies. So this is for the $2,030. Now, here the chase strategy should be used in this case because it has the least or lower cost. So you choose the chase strategy because you're comparing the cost of a chase strategy. We found $41,900. So this one is the strategy that is supposed to be actually chosen between the two strategies, because the other one is actually $42,030. So this marks the end of the topic to do with aggregate planning. Are there questions?
Personally, you lost me on ending cost.
On which one?
On ending cost, how were we calculating how to find the ending cost? I think that was ending.
Okay, so the ending cost for each strategy, for both of them, or just for this the pure level?
Just for the pure level.
Okay, so pure level. So ending cost, you put, if you have a pen, you can write somewhere. It is just the beginning stock